environment in Castlebar after the races?
The second one is very easy. He departed Castlebar on the evening of the 3rd into the 4th of September. So the Battle of Castlebar was the 27th of August, so it was a matter of days. And his decision to depart is subject to a lot of debates on whether it was the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do, etc. The second question is a difficult one. I can tell you where the hangings happened in pretty much any town in Mayo, but I don't know, I can't tell you specifically where Father Sweeney was hanged.
Thank you. Thank you very much, both of you.
Was there the two shafts that the camp had fallen down from the hill down to Castlebar that they hung, and some persons passing by had a nasty comment about hanging back there?
Who is this now?
Father Manson.
Father Manson.
Down in the court, they hung up, put the back of the car and the two shafts that are hung between the two shafts.
Yeah.
Down in the centre of the town. And I actually know where the fire is in Castlebar.
Oh, very good. Yeah, well, that was a very standard method of hanging at the time. And I think we have to bear in mind that martial law was imposed. And the imposition of martial law meant all of the civilian codes of law were suspended. So, like in Castlebar, across the Green, typically gallows were built in front of what is now the Royal Texas to hang people. But I believe that during the 1798 rebellion, or afterwards, the military didn't concern themselves with chopping up wood and building things. They just got on to the business they were doing, and people were hanged from the back of carts, I would imagine, from trees. There's some great commentary from the 19th century from a judge who came to Mayo during, in the aftermath of the rebellion, and we see the civilian courts trying to insist that they get their jurisdiction back, and that these men are held, tried by courts, in courts rather by court-martial in the field or by the military. And we see this tension. And the tension is very interesting when you look at it in the Mayo context, because the absolute view of Dennis Brown and Westport House, where Antrim was, court-martials are best. There are no juries, you don't have to trouble yourself with evidence, you get results. Where if you get into the courts, anything can happen. And so we see, and I'll talk about it at length tomorrow, so we see in Mayo a lot of really good research has been done by people like Desmond McCabe and others. And we see, so what people are concluding, the belief is that there were 179 court-martials in Mayo in the aftermath of the rebellion. And of the 179 court-martials, it is believed, and these numbers are approximate, that there were approximately 156 convictions. So a very high conviction rate. And you can see why there's a preference for court-martials. Of 156 convictions, it is estimated that there were 60 individuals hanged. And we have the names of approximately 36 of those. So that's quite a significant number. It's more than half. And I believe that the number of hanged in Castlebar was in the order of 22. And the other place where there was a significant number of hangings was Ballinrobe. Quite a few in Killala, quite a few in Ballinrobe, as well as you'd expect. Some notable ones in places like Glenmorris. Now, I've pulled all this together if anybody's interested in a book I published a couple of years ago called Anatomy of County Jail. And I've got two lengthy schedules with 228 prisoner names, all of the death sentences in Mayo, and all the hangings from the 19th century, and quite a number, 53, 54 for the 1798 rebellion period, and a number, a small number from the 18th century as well.
The students of Government Edison was in Castlebar here a number of years ago, and our friend historian Ian hosted a number of them around this, and he has written a lot of papers, and I hope that his papers will be in the library for the future.
Absolutely, and Brian I know is really missed by all of us, and my first introduction to this beautiful place was a tour that Brian Hunt gave, so we will always continue to remember Brian Hunt. Yep.
Can I ask a question? After I spent a few happy times in the place down the town called the Home, and Jim and I there, I think he was born in Milo, and can you confirm, did he go to the States, to Louisiana after?
Humbert had an exceptionally colourful life after he left Castlebar. He was involved in absolutely brutal and atrocious suppression of the slave revolt and the drive for independence in Haiti. And with the French regiments, they massacred people. So that's another side of General Humbert. He ultimately finds his way into Louisiana, fights with the Americans, and ultimately, there's a wonderful book, and the name of it escapes me right now, about the history of New Orleans, and it's readily available. But there's an entire chapter in that book on General Humbert, and particularly on the later part of his life in that part of the world. And ultimately, he ends up being a school teacher. So General Humbert left Castlebar and continued to do what he did in Castlebar elsewhere in different contexts.
Thank you.
Like regarding the hanging of Mass Sweden, someone mentioned about Holland's poem. She and I began into story wrote extensively on the Sweden, and she maintained that he was hanged on a wheel crane in the marketplace in Newport, up at the top of town. And he was, a table was brought out, and he stood on the table, and the table was kicked up.
Michelle Malloy is an eminent historian, and her work on 1798, publishing a great book called Victory or Glorious Defeat. And she has an essay there on that aspect and other aspects. It's definitely worth reading. Now, it was worth the back, I think. What was that? Maybe not. Okay, are folks happy to? Do we have one in the back? Okay.
Yeah, Michael, just a question. So, it's 100 years since Ireland has achieved both the Republic of Ireland. Has there been an effort on the British side to commemorate the loss of life in 1719 in this period? Or has there ever been anything official to prevent the Castlebar?
I wouldn't say there has never been, I don't know, but I don't recall there being any. But what I do recall, if you read the military histories, is that what happened at Castlebar was extremely embarrassing for British military, the British establishment, and even in military schools today, what happened at Castlebar is talked about and taught, and how not to do things. And I think it's, if you look at that, if you read that statement, that the acknowledgement for the Habsburg and Stock Dragoons, you get a sense from reading that you know, if you read it, it talks about their gallantry and the great military achievements in Castlebar. But this is propaganda. It's fake news, and it's written from the perspective of the victors. They finally recapture Castlebar, they put down the rebellion, and now they can sit by and write these histories. And I brought along 2 volumes written by Musgrave. Sir Richard Musgrave in 1803, and his account of what happened in Castlebar was the account for more than a century, and it has been forensically taken apart by many historians, and is now, I suppose, known for what it is, incredibly one-sided, incredibly biased, and entirely unreliable as a source for history. But so I have not answered your question because I don't know specifically, but I'm not aware of any acknowledgement.
Have you any idea of the loss of life on the British side?
There's lots of different numbers. I think there's one number that talks around something around 80 soldiers, but I'm not, it depends on who you read. I think the more conservative accounts are probably the better ones. The loss of life is probably not as high as people thought. It's recorded in British history as being an unfortunate incident that ultimately rights prevailed, Humbert was defeated, the rebels were punished, they were not treated as combatants in the field, they were hanged and slaughtered, and the French were obviously given the free passage which reflected the military concord in the fields to ensure that soldiers could return to their regiments from both sides. But the Irish were not treated as that. So British military history is recorded as being, I think it's a very small episode in a much, much bigger story of the British Empire and Napoleon.
Just a simple question on that. The British public became aware of that time.
It's covered in the newspapers. Are really interesting to read that time actually, and there's reporting from Mayo before 1810 is really poor. It tends to be reporting on marriages between the aristocracy, sale of land, big things like that. There's very little in terms of reporting on ordinary people. You get the odd hanging, the odd court case. But 1798 arrives, and then there's a lot of reporting on the rebellion in the Irish press. There's a lot of reporting in the English press, and I wrote on this evening something from the French press. The reporting, however, is, I suppose, if you think about the countryside was disturbed, it was unsafe. You didn't have correspondents wandering around the battlefields recording what was happening, so you were getting perspectives. A lot of what was reported was wrong, a lot of it was unreliable. You had people who were hanged who were never hanged, people who escaped who never escaped. You can see, I suppose, in a lot of the reports, the absolute terror in England, and elsewhere in Scotland as well, of this actually having happened. That the French not only arrived, but they had this amazing success, and they had a success because the British military failed. They deserted. There was a lot of debate about how many deserted. With how many of them in terms of numbers. The highest I've seen is 60, but even that's highly contested. There's a lot of press coverage, but if you're writing about the period, you need to be extremely careful about the press coverage because it's press reporting, and press reporting, as we know, can be way off the mark. I suppose actually there's a good point there as well, and that is that up until 1830, up until St. Patrick's Day in 1830, there was no newspaper in Mayo that represented the views and position and difficulties of the majority Catholic population. So we had papers like the Mayo Constitution, in particular, putting a narrative out there that was very, very one-sided. It was not until the Coloured Telegraph came along in 1830 that all changed. And we see these wonderful battles in the 1830s and into the 1840s as well, between the Coloured Telegraph and the Mayo Constitution, between the orders and the editors. And it was like it was a heavyweight boxing round, but no limit on the number of rounds. They pounded each other for the best part of 2 decades on trying to grab get the headlines out there and get the perspective out there. And it's a very interesting period as well.
Was it true that there were 2 militias driving one militia in Kenny and another militia driving from Galway? They got Irishmen and Englishmen to put down Irishmen, and the military guards were being over by the guard articles now. And why did they make the threat in the way that was made? What was the reasoning behind it?
So what was the reasoning behind what, Arnie?
The making of the threat itself.
Well, the reason behind the making of it was that there were no guns available to the vast majority of the Irish combatants, so they turned to making the pike, and the pike, I suppose, has a number of different functions. You can use it in a charge, you can use it to stab forward, and you can use it to pull cavalrymen off the back of horses. You can probably do significant damage to the horses as well, I would imagine. And it was a very quick, there's great stories, particularly from around Castlebar, over towards Westport, of the forges burning all night, making pikes for the pikemen, and getting them into the field and using the army. But these pikes were completely ineffective against cannon and against musket shot.
The authorities of the day were after the lessons, substitutional lessons, because they were engineered for making weapons, and the weapons were because they were potential leaders, because they were defenses from Rome to the French college, and they came back with the other ideas.
Yeah, that's what I think.
That were educated potential leaders, and taxes were producers of weapons, potential users of weapons, and the targeted a lot afterwards.
Well, the clergy were targeted because some of them were actually actively involved in the rebellion, and either as leaders or as involved in the background. But I think we need to, I think if you look at the histories, you'll find that there were a lot of clergy in Mayo, good number of clergy in Mayo, that remained loyal to the establishment side. And if you look at the official papers in Ireland, you can see that members of the clergy in Mayo were paid by Westport House, they were paid by government, along with people in Westport House elsewhere, for informing, gathering information. And but a number of the men who were hanged in Mayo were hanged as a consequence of having been given away by informants. And on the Green on tomorrow at 12, we'll be doing a reenactment of the court martial of Captain Timon, who I believe was betrayed in a house in Val, and he was given a quick court martial on the Green in Castlebar and hanged. So again, there were clergy on both sides.